piano, do your chord progressions sometimes sound boring or predictable? I have the perfect solution for you. I decided to take a regular A major chord progression and then flip it around, play it forward, and then see what it would sound like played completely backward. At first, I thought it was going to be a flop, but I was absolutely blown away with how it worked. If you stick with me to the end of this video, you will hear the entire chord progression from beginning to end, forward, and then flipped around, backward, and then combined. When you use this method, it will make such a difference in making your chord progressions sound beautiful, amazing, unpredictable, yet absolutely stunning. Hi, my name's Rebecca and welcome to my music studio. I absolutely love being here and I love teaching people who have never learned how to improvise on the piano. It's something that I was never taught in all of my many years of playing the piano and even on to college when I majored in music. Because of that, I didn't want that to happen to anybody else. If you want to sit down at the piano and make absolutely beautiful music, now is your chance. Every single time you sit down to practice should not be stress-filled, but a time filled with beauty and musical therapy. And that's what I'm here for.
If you're a beginner, you're probably very used to playing in the key of C major, which means all of the white notes between C and C. It's a great place for beginners to start because we don't have to worry about any of the black notes. But today we're going to actually begin in a new key, which is starting on A. And just a reminder of what a sharp is, first of all. A sharp is when you have a note like C, and instead of playing that note, you're going to play one note directly to the right of it, which in this case happens to be a C sharp. So I'm going to give you three notes that we're not going to play, and we're going to play the sharp instead. The first one is an F. So instead of playing an F, you'll play the F sharp here. The second one is that C. Instead of playing a C, we play a C sharp. And then the third one is a G. So instead of a G, you'll play the G sharp. So you're going to be playing these three sharps here, the first in the set of two, and then the first two in the set of three black notes, instead of these three notes. So instead of F, C, G, we play F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So now we're going to play all of the notes from A to A, remembering the sharps and to skip those three notes. Let's start with just one finger and play the scale. C sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A. And then we come back down. And it's always very important to start with a scale because we are teaching our fingers and our ears which white notes and which black notes to start with. We're going to now build chords in the key of A major. So I'm going to start down here. This is middle C. I'm going to start at this A down here. And all we're doing is we are building triads in the key of A major. A triad is simply three notes that are stacked on top of one another to form a chord. So I'm going to show you how to form the first triad, and then we'll do all of the rest of the triads in the key of A. So in the key of A major, we start on the first note, which is A, and we go up three. 1, 2, and 3 was our C sharp. So if we play A and C sharp together, and then we start at A again and go up 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we come to an E. Play all of those together, A, C sharp, E, and that is our first triad, or our number 1 chord in the key of A. If we build a chord on the second note, which is B, we have B, D, and F sharp, which is a B minor. That's our 2 chord. Our 3 chord is built on the third note of the scale. That's a C sharp, E, G sharp. That is a minor 3 or a C sharp minor. The fourth note is a D, F sharp, A, and that's a D major. Our fifth note is an E, E, G sharp, B, which is our major 5. Our 6 is built on the 6th note of the scale, which is an F sharp, A, C sharp, and that is an F sharp minor. Our 7th is a diminished chord built on the G sharp, B, and D. always sounds really great. And then we're back to our one chord. Now that we have learned our A major scale and the A major chords, we're going to now look at our left hand chord progression, and we're going to start out with stacked chords. So we start out with our number 1 chord. We're going to our number 6 chord, which is the F sharp minor. This is a very classic chord progression. You're going to recognize it immediately. Then we go to our number 4 chord, which is our D major, and then to our number 5 chord. And then we end back up on A. So one of the choices that you have is to keep stacked chords in your left hand the whole time. And since we're doing something that is in 4/4 time, you can just hit each of the chords 4 times in a row. But after a while, that gets a little bit boring and it sounds a little bit 50s doo-wop. And so I like to do a more representative version of the chords so it doesn't sound exactly like that. So I'm going to take it down an octave. This is middle C. And we're going to start out with our A, and we're going to represent it by playing an octave. And then we're going to put the 5th down in the middle, which is an E. So if you remember how we made that original triad, we did 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's our 5th, that E, and that is where that comes from. So the pattern that I'm going to play for all of this is we're going to start at the bottom, and we're going to arpeggiate it, which just means playing individual notes from the bottom to the top. And then I'm going to hit the 5th and the top one more time and do that 2 times. Now go to the F sharp with C sharp in the middle, to the D with A in the middle, then to the E with B in the middle, and then end on the A. So chord progressions are meant to be looping. So you can do that over and over again. But remember, stick with me because we're going to actually turn this chord progression on its head and play it from the E all the way back to the A and see what happens in just a little bit. One thing that I like to do with beginners right away is put hands together, and that is a little bit scary for some people who maybe have never done that, but we're going to start out pretty simple with our right hand in 5-finger positions. So first of all, I want you with your right hand to go through this chord progression. So we have our A major, F sharp minor, D major, and then E major. And make sure that you understand the movement of all that before we begin. Now that we've played our triads, you'll realize that we're playing with our 1 finger, 3, and 5 for every single chord. But there are 2 separate fingers that are not playing. That's the 2 and the 4. And for each time you play the triad, those other 2 fingers are not playing. But for right now, they're going to show us the 5-finger position that you're going to pick from within this chord progression. So, for example, for the A major, if you lay your fingers so that you have played the chord, and then you start at the bottom and play to the top, those are your 5-finger positions that you get to pick any of those notes when we play the A chord. Now let's go to the F sharp minor. We have the 2 hovering over the G sharp and the 4 hovering over the B. And now move down to the D, and we have our 2 over the E and our 4 over the G sharp. And then up to the E, we have 2 over F sharp and 4 over A. So when we put our left hand together with our right hand, we're going to be moving our right hand along these 5-finger positions. And you get to choose any notes within there to make beautiful music. Anything that you choose within those 5-finger positions every time are going to sound amazing. So let's now put this together with our left hand, and you can feel free to go very slowly. So remember, if your left hand is moving down, your right hand is also moving down. And if your right hand is moving up, your left hand is moving up. So we are moving along the same plane, which makes it a little bit easier. So let's give this a try with our 5-finger positions and doing hands together. Let's see what happens. So remember that all of my videos go from simpler to a little bit more advanced. If there's ever a step where you feel that you need to stop the video and practice that before moving on, I encourage you to do that. This is not to make you feel overwhelmed, but just to give you each of the steps to playing in a chord progression that is going to make you feel accomplished and make beautiful music every single time you sit down to play the piano. Feel that you can move your hands along the same plane and they're moving and playing together, I want you now to think about inversions. So inversions simply mean that you are taking a chord like our A and you can play it in any order that you want to. So this would be the root position where it's stacked on top of one another. That's where we start. If you take the A off the bottom and play it at the top, that is your first inversion. If you take the C sharp off the bottom and play that at the top, that's the second inversion, and then you come back to your root position. So what I would do is I would start here at the bottom, and I would play all of the different inversions for all the different chords. And then go to your F sharp minor. And all of them are going to feel just slightly different in your hand, and that's why it's important to play them all just to see what the different patterns are. Let's do our D. And our last one, our E. And then you're back to your A. Now, the reason that inversions are important are because sometimes when you're playing along, you may come across something that is easier to play in a different inversion. Let me give you an example. So let's say that we started with our A stacked chord right here, and we want to go to our F sharp. We can do a couple of different things, and let me show you the different choices. So the notes for the F sharp minor are F sharp, A, and C sharp. So we have an A and a C sharp here, and we can stay in the root position for F sharp and just move here. But another way to play this would be to move this E up to this F sharp. So I want you to hear how that changes the sound that we have here. So we have our first one, and now here's our second one. You hear that? It just sounds a little bit different, and it can give some variety to your playing. Okay, so let's choose this one. And now let's go to our D. So D is D, F sharp, and A. We already have an A, so we're going to keep that one. We have an F sharp already, and then we just have a D right here. So all we have to do is move to our 3-finger. So we could do that. Or let's now go to the stacked D and hear how that sounds different. It doesn't sound bad if you do it that way. You can do that, or you can do that, which is really close. So you get a whole bunch of different choices. So let's choose this one, and then we're going to our E. So this is E, G sharp, and B. We have G sharp here, we have B, and we have E. So we could just move down like that. Let's pick another one where we move up, where we take this B, this E, and this G sharp. Hear how that sounds different? So you get to choose on the fly anything that you want to do. Or if you're a planned person and you want to actually plan out where your hands are going to go, try that as well. But this just gives you some different options, so you don't always have to play the same thing every single time. Or Hear how that sounds different? So you get to decide the inversions that you want to use when you are playing. Now, with inversions comes the 5-finger positions that you can use for every single one. So let's just use our A as our example. So if we have our A here, we can still do the regular 5-finger position that we did before. Let's now look at the first inversion. So we have C sharp, E, and A. The 2 fingers not playing are 3 and 4, and they're over the F sharp and the G sharp. See that? So that's our new 5-finger position of things that you can also pick while you are playing. Then we'll do our second inversion with the C sharp on top. We have E, A, and C sharp. The 2 fingers that are not playing are our 3 over the B and our 5 over the D. Hear that? So we have all of those different 5-finger positions, and you can go through those, every single one, and find different 5-finger positions that's going to help you when you play this chord progression. So now I am going to play our original forward-facing A chord progression, and I'm going to use some inversions and use some of those passing tones. Those passing tones come when your hands are in those 5-finger positions and you play any of those notes like the B or the D that are not actually in the chord, but you're just passing by to get to the chord. So let's create a little song here using inversions and whatever we're feeling at the moment. We're going to do our chord progression forward facing still. I promise we're going to try it backwards and see what happens. The time has now come to flip it on its ear. We're going to start with our 5 and then go to 4, then 6, and then 1. So this is going to be from E to D to F sharp and then to A. It will sound a little bit different because we're starting on the 5 of the chord this time instead of the 1 of the chord. But we're going to end with the A major, and that's going to make it sound like our music has come home. Another way to use our creativity with any chord progression is to play the original chord progression, then play it backwards all in a row. So this time I'm going to do that. I'm going to combine them both. I'm going to play from the 1, 6, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to go directly to the 4, 6, and then back to 1. And it's going to make a longer chord progression, but it's going to sound very surprising and beautiful when we do it this way because they're familiar chords, but they're played in a different direction. So now let's try this where we're combining the whole entire thing.
Wasn't that absolutely amazing? I love the fact that now you can take chord progressions, flip them on their ear, and play them the opposite direction, and it's going to sound gorgeous every single time. Let me know if you plan to try this with any of my other videos. All you have to do is watch them and then play them forward and backward. That would be a great place to start. If you would like to try another chord progression in A major, check out this one. It's a great one that's absolutely beautiful. Go ahead and try it backwards. chords too. Then you get two for the price of one. If you learned something in this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. All of those likes and subscribes help my channel, and I am just so grateful for you. Until I see you again, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next video.